Welcome back to Through the Veil podcast with Elle and Camille. I'm Camille.
I'm Elle.
And this is the podcast where we seek to demystify, develop, and celebrate our spiritual gifts through a faith-based lens. And we should probably explain where we've been for the past few weeks. I don't have a really good story to share where I've been gone, but Elle has something more interesting to share.
It's me. I'm the problem. Sorry. I took a vacation. I was gone for 2 weeks in Ireland, and it was amazing. It was without kids, so I mean that's huge.
In and of itself, yeah.
It's a miracle. My parents came down and watched our kids for us while we could go globe hop. So that was really, really fun. We saw some cool stuff. We had some cool experiences. We had some non-cool experiences. But yeah, it was pretty awesome. So sorry for the gap, everybody.
Yeah.
When you get back into life, you almost need a vacation from your vacation because everything you've missed. So.
Yes. No, truly. That is absolute facts. Well, we're going to talk today about a topic we have discussed in the past, but not maybe as thoroughly. People, a lot of times when they know that we have these gifts and we use these gifts, they'll say, well, how do you know that you're staying away from bad spirits or counterfeit or the dark that is out there? How do you keep yourself above the board?
I mean, even further than that, I find so many people teaching and things like that who have had experiences or suspect that they may have gifts similar to this, and they're just scared of it because they're afraid that bad stuff is going to happen. Like they're going to have dark encounters or something, you know?
Yeah, like it's opening Pandora's box. Like we don't, yeah.
It's a legitimate fear. One that personally I empathize with to a great degree. I'm not shy about talking on the podcast about my background and my history with these things, but I lived a life of much trepidation for many, many years because of these things. So I feel it. Even my own kids, a lot of the time, it's probably once a week at least, they'll watch something or listen to something and they're like, Mom, I'm scared. I'm scared of going to bed. How do I know that there's not going to be bad things? There's something bad in my room. And I'm like, we should talk about these things more often, right? We don't have to live our lives from a place of fear. Even when we can identify that there is something bad, I don't think we have to be afraid of it because there are tools that are given to us to overcome that, to get rid of it, to push it out, to handle it. So, I think this is a topic we really need to discuss for sure.
Right. And I think a lot of people have probably found this podcast particularly because they were children that had experiences similar to you, Elle. And it's not a choice for them. I don't know if I want to open up Pandora's box. Pandora's box was open to them when they were a kid and they were experiencing things where it's it's not dinner time conversation. Like you said, we should talk about these things more. And maybe they saw something or they heard something or they sensed something that made them feel uncomfortable. So maybe they're not here because it's a choice that they open themselves up. Maybe the other side opened itself up to them and they're trying to figure out, how do I, what do I do with this? How do I rise above this bad stuff? And how do I connect to the good stuff? Right? Yeah.
So it's not a curse. It could be one of those things that either it's really cool and people are like, wow, that's awesome. Or you're like, it's not, it's terrible and horrifying. I think the other hand that I want to get to it kind of at the end is that there are a lot of people who are scared of this, kind of like we were talking about earlier, who view it in a very negative light because they are afraid that you don't know who you're talking to or that you will have access to the bad side or you'll be corrupted and things like that. And I think that is a huge discussion too that needs to be had.
Yeah. And maybe there's some middle ground too. People that have found our podcast who have become interested in these gifts because they've had positive experiences after a loved one passed away. Similar to me with my son, or I have a friend who's I haven't told anyone this before, but after my grandma died, I felt her visit me a couple times. And sometimes I can sort of sense what she's saying to me. Is that weird? Is that crazy? And I say, no, that's actually really understandable. But sometimes they get introduced to the other side because they've had positive experiences with someone who passed away. And then maybe it piques their curiosity, well, what else can I do with this gift? Do I just wait for them to come visit me or can I reach back out to them? how does this work? And so there's just a lot of questions.
Yeah. Hopefully we will address some of those today. So let's jump right in. Let's start with how to navigate experiences that you may be having, especially if you tend to have experiences that seem to be a little more negative or frightening. Oftentimes, so I will always tell people this, you can tell the difference when something is positive or negative. We can intrinsically know, right? We're pulled towards light things, and we are repelled from dark things. There's a reason why we are afraid. And it goes past like a general sense of unease or nervousness. I think anytime that we encounter something we don't understand, it makes us uncomfortable. And that discomfort is sometimes a good thing because we're identifying other. It's a safety mechanism for us, right? And it's because when we encounter the bad things, we need to have that kind of fear. We have to have that repulsion to pull away. It's instinctual and it needs to be. But anything that's unusual or outside of our comfort zone tends to make us uncomfortable and nervous. And so I definitely think a lot of people have over responsive maybe reactions when they encounter spirit, especially if it's somebody that they don't immediately recognize. If it's not grandma, even if it is grandma, who was it, Rachel, that was telling the story of like when her grandparents came to her when she was a child, it terrified her. She knew that, like she knew who they were. They weren't sketch spirits like trundling in the darkness. They were people that she knew and that she loved. But that just goes to show that we get really uncomfortable around things that we don't understand. And things that are of a spiritual nature are definitely things that we have a limited understanding for. So not every spirit is negative that you interact with. And just because you fear or you feel that impulse towards surprise or alarm or nervousness doesn't necessarily mean something is dark and nasty. And if you sit with it for a minute, you may find that it's not threatening. The dark stuff will tend to put your hackles up. It will tend to give you that alarm response because we can feel that dark, like, I don't know, resonance or something. It's like a different kind of frequency of vibration. And I think our bodies, our spirits, they know what that feels like and they will react to it. Have you ever encountered something truly dark, Camille? What did that feel like to you?
Yeah, a couple times. We lived in a house about 8 years ago in California, and the family that lived there before us, he had died in the house, which they did not disclose to us when we purchased the house, which is illegal, by the way.
Yeah, that's a law.
Yeah. So he died at the house, and that house was like his baby. He had customized it. It was really great. There was like French molding everywhere. Is that what it's called? French molding? French? Crown molding. Crown molding. Oh my gosh. There was crown molding all over, even in the closet, there was crown molding. It was really nice. They'd put in a pool in the backyard with the barbecue. It was a great house. And I think it was like his baby. And I got the sense that there was a kind of a grumpy spirit that didn't want us to be there. And I felt that a few times, but one day I was in the garage and it's like I could hear him talking to me. It was like clairaudient, right? I can hear him communicating with me. And it felt like there were waves of energy pushing at me. And he said very distinctly, "Get out of my house." And I felt like my body back up, like, whoa, that was really intense. And then when a few years after that, I was here at our house in Utah and I was sitting on my couch and I think I was nursing my baby. So this was probably like 5 years ago. And I just felt a really dark spirit and I could hear a voice inside my mind that was like, it was definitely like a lower third demon kind of voice. It was not like a person. And it just said in this, like the scariest voice possible, "I'm going to destroy your family." And I was like, "Whoa, that's like a bad spirit." And I hadn't been doing anything to like elicit that. It's not like I was watching a horror movie while I was nursing my kid. And then I was like, "Oh, crazy. It brings about bad things when I watch bad things." It wasn't like that. It was just me sitting there and I could feel this darkness approaching and I could hear it talking to me. And it was like, if I could have seen what it looked like based on how it felt, it was just this awful, terrible monster.
Yeah. I think the first one I'd probably classify as something more unfriendly, not dark, but those are still unwelcome,
But
right?
angry, very, very angry.
Yeah, I mean, it's not to say that those things can't be threatening too. Unfriendly spirits can be threatening too. Um, and you deal with them in largely the same way, maybe with a different like resolution of power. um, Whereas the other experience would be something typified as like that dark spirit. This would be something that is maybe inhuman. I always hesitate to use the word demonic because I feel like it's overused and it gives really negative connotations. And I'm not even really sure that we know what that means, but it's definitely something that would be nasty, something really dark. Um, and the way that you deal with the two of those things is similar, like I said, but maybe one of them requires a stronger input. Um, I think it's important to point out to people that while we're here, while we are embodied, like this is our journey. It's the focal point kind of is in the grand scheme of things, I really feel like is on us to utilize this time right now. And there is some kind of capacity and power that comes with being embodied in that way. And you can tell them no. You do have boundaries. You have to believe in them.
Hmm.
Um, Even with that, angry, uncomfortable man. Well, how did you deal with that in that
Yeah, I was
situation?
gonna say, are you gonna ask? So I just was like, we were actually already planning to move to Utah. We had already decided we were moving. And so I kind of yelled back at him, like, we are, like, back off, like we are, like, kind of fed up. Like, I know that you have, you know,
Strong opinions.
you have issues with like stuff going down on earth. You're really focused on what's going on here. You haven't quite let go. Like you're holding on. You have anger stuff going on. Um, I'm like, that's your stuff. You have your stuff, but like leave me alone because we actually are moving out of this house. So just back off. It was kind of that. And I never felt him again. But it was like we can agree to disagree, okay, bro?
And you should stand your ground in those kinds of situations.
Yeah.
It happens so often people think that they are haunted or interacting with something that, isn't welcome and doesn't want them there. And don't let them chase you out.
Right.
Stand your ground, hold
Oh,
firm
I
to
would have
it.
stayed in that house if we weren't going to move. If we didn't feel strongly encouraged spiritually to move. That house was dope. It had a pool, it had a 4-car garage. That house was awesome.
I hope the people who moved in next had a good way of handling that.
They only stayed for 2 years and I never asked them. It was our next door neighbors that just walked over and like, can we buy this house from you? And we're like, sure. And they were only there for a couple of years. So I'm kind of wondering.
Yeah, that's kind of a pattern with people who feel negative presences like that. It can be really disruptive in their life.
Yeah.
Um, and so my counsel for that would be, I guess, first start to make peace if you can't, like if it's there, if it's available, if you can peacefully coexist with something, then I guess take that as an option. Like don't feel like an idiot speaking into the air.
Yeah. Well, I have a story about that, Elle. So we go to this there's this place in California I like to go back to visit too. It's called Crystal Cove and they have these little historic beach cottages. The state owns it. But the history is really interesting. It used to be owned by like Japanese farmers, and then they got kicked out because of World War II, and they got sent to internment camps. And then like white people came in and bought these cottages or inhabited, I don't know, and then they would kind of kept them for generations, and then the state kicked them out because it was always state owned land, and they were leasing it. And so like people had gotten kicked out different times, and I was staying in one of them. I've stayed in a few different of those cottages, and I could just immediately feel as when I walked in, like there's some presences here. I felt like a few. And I just kind of interacted by in my mind saying, I know you, I can sense you guys are here. As long as you're friendly, like we can coexist like in a friendly way, that's fine. And I could kind of feel like they didn't really want me to be there, but I know that they're used to people being there because it gets rented out like every night. Um, and then as I was putting my groceries on the kitchen counter, I heard a female say to me, don't, you can't put that there. Like really grumpy and bossy. And like, this is my house. And like, you can't put that there. And I don't want you here anyway. And at that point I was like, okay, we can't do this anymore. So I said, you need to leave. I don't want you here anymore. And so I said a prayer and I told them they had to go. And then I felt this other male spirit come in. And I don't know why, but I want to name him Brian. Like that's just the name that popped into my head. I don't know who Brian is. However, I just felt this kind of guardian guy step in and like be kind of like yeah, like a guardian, say, okay, these other spirits are going to stay out because you've asked them to, and I'm here to make sure that they do that, and this is a safe place for you. So he was this like good helping spirit that kept them at bay and made me feel more comfortable, and then I was fine.
Yeah. And I think that's exactly kind of how you need to do it. Let them know that they are not like
In
this
charge.
appropriate. Yeah, that you're sharing the space. So, like I was saying, like if you can make it amicable, if you can find some kind of peaceful coexistence, because in that story, um, you were kind of okay with it at the beginning. You knew she was there until she got a little pushy and she overstepped a boundary, right? And if
Mm-hmm.
you can make it peaceful, if they feel like they're not threatening, then I would say coexist peacefully, like make
Oh,
peace. Be
totally.
um I've even heard some stories of people who have like a friendly spirit presence that has actually saved them in situations of like house fires or things like that where they were woken up in the middle of the night by their guardian angel or somebody
Oh,
who like notified them.
I have a
Um
story about that too, actually. So I'm full
Sorry.
of stories today. You can tell we haven't recorded in a few weeks, Al. I'm just like, I'm like, it's like bubbling out of me.
Keep it in. Why we have
Okay,
a
so my friends, um, my friend I met through work like 8 years ago, 9 years ago. She lives across the country. She was in Chicago at the time, living with her husband and two boys. She got woken up in the middle of the night by the spirit. Like this thought was like, "Go check on your son." She's like, "Okay." So she wakes up and she goes to check on him. He seems fine. She goes back to bed and she can't fall asleep. The spirit is like, "Go check on your son again." And she's like, she sensed it was a male spirit. She's not really like in this world of spirit communication. She just had this really poignant experience. She goes back to check on her son, and she noticed inside of his mouth he had like a gobstopper or some type of thing he was sucking on that was like lodged in there. And she was able to like fish it out because she realized like if it had sunk deeper, he could have choked and died. And then so she sent me a Marco Polo the next day, and she's like, Camille, I knew after I got it out, it was Wesley. I knew it was Wesley waking me up twice to make sure I checked on him because he like was protecting him, you know? It was just the craziest, coolest experience.
Yeah, and that just goes to show that some of these interactions can be really positive. They can be really, really positive, even when they just kind of pop in on you unannounced.
Right.
So if that's not the way it ends up going, and they do end up overstepping boundaries like that, then I would say be firm. Do not be afraid. Be firm. Every time they step in on you, every time they push a boundary, verbally tell them, "Get out." Like this is not appropriate. I need you to leave. Like please leave. And I
Yeah.
think it can be really effective to hold that space and hold that boundary. If it needs to be taken a level further than that, I find prayer to be really effective. It can be one of those things where, um, I mean, you can ask. I've even asked angels to come in and help them move on, like
Yeah.
especially before I was able to really harness that kind of communication for myself. Like years and years ago when I would have experiences and stuff like this, sometimes I would just pray that they would find the right help to help them move forward, right? Um, or you can pray to have your own angels come in and stand guard, kind of like you did, Camille, where you
Yeah.
have we all have teams of people. We all have people on our side, whether you want to call that guardian angels or angel teams, spirit teams, even further up the ladder. I mean, God doesn't want us to be living in a place of fear either. And we
Right.
have heaven able on call to step in. Like we have that right as God's children, to ask for help, to ask for angels, to ask for that help to step in. If you need to take a step even further than that, we can cast things out. You call upon that name of Christ. It's a powerful thing.
That's what I had to do when I was sitting on my couch. I was like, you got to go. Like, I can't deal with your presence anymore. This is so uncomfortable. Like, this is just, it was just the creepiest feeling.
And I will say a lot of that is maybe dependent on your faith and on the stick power of it. Do you believe it's going to work? But even then, especially when you're dealing with maybe the darker stuff, the pathway is not quite the same because you shouldn't bother with the harmonious coexistence. That's not going to happen when it's something that's um, truly on that dark side of things, because their whole purpose is your destruction, right? I mean, he didn't lie to you. his, whole, his whole purpose is
Right.
destruction.
Right.
Um, you don't want to toy with that. So don't jump straight to the go. Like, cast them out, call upon those angels to eradicate that thing. This is like vermin. What is the extermination order? Jump to don't mess with rat poison. You jump with calling the exterminator, and you cast that baby out. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
think you may have to do it more than once, and people might not recognize that. I think we have kind of this assumption that one should be good enough. You say it one time and it's gone. I have had so many times where I have had to go room to room in my house and move it along, you know, whether that is by a blessing. I've had my husband come with me and we've blessed our house before multiple times, or just me many times late at night in the dark. There was a time not so long ago, I think it was in February, and I can't remember exactly what brought this about, but it was late at night. I have a 6 month old, and so I'm still like pumping at night, and we're doing the whole bottle feeding thing. And I was pumping up in my bedroom, and I went to go take that downstairs and put it in the fridge. And on the way back up, I was like, oh boy, we're not alone. Something's up here. So I was like on edge, and I moved through. We have 4 bedrooms in the upstairs of our house, and I moved through each room, kind of like spidey senses tingling, right? And I stood in the hallway and, put my arm to the square, cast that baby out. And I did it in each direction in front of each doorway for my children. And I said it with emphasis, right? And you have to mean it. They are not welcome, and you tell them to go. And by the end of that fourth time, I ended up also adding the additional, prayer to call in more angelic presence, to call in those things of light that they could come down and be with my family that night and kind of stand guard. And it didn't come back.
Mm-hmm.
And I sitting there in the moment, I've done this so many times, like I can't even count. Um, but I was kind of marveling in the moment of this experience, going like, how insane is it how different this house feels now? Like, you can almost feel it on your skin, that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
um
Like the air
Immediately.
feels less thick. Like you can
Yeah,
glide through your house. There's like less resistance, or I don't know. There's
yeah.
like an energy difference.
Breathe. And before, it's like it catches in your chest, right? There's something not right here, something is wrong. It feels oppressive, it feels scary, it feels dark. Like you're afraid something's going to jump out at you. It's like a nervous system response, right? Your
Mm-hmm.
body unconsciously tuning into something um that is there, whether or not you consciously recognize it. And I was just like, wow, that's amazing. It's amazing. I almost woke up my husband. I didn't. I almost did, to be like, do you feel the difference? Of course he would. Not even a tornado would wake him up. We feel it. I really believe that we feel it. Even people who don't necessarily believe in spiritual things. And I'm not just talking about hauntings either, because um whether or not you have a local spirit, something that like is in a locality that's where they are, um there there are those spirits that are, interacting through the veil, or negative spirits who are like moving around doing their dark business of evil, right? And so um I think we can all feel there are times where you'll just feel uneasy. You will feel something is off, something's not right. And like we were just saying, it's probably subconsciously you tuning into something that isn't right, something that is either different, not normal, or something that is in fact wrong. And so I think those instincts can be a really, really valuable thing. Um, sometimes I'll be doing something, I'll be going somewhere, whether it's in my own house or whether it's somewhere else, and I will get that uneasiness. And I've had it enough times, and I can tune in, I can dial into when something is more spirit situated or otherwise. And if it is, I will just tell them no. It's just my automatic response. I've got firm boundaries. I'm like, no, no. you cannot interact with me right now. It's not welcome. Like, get
Hmm.
out.
And I
Um,
think that also could go for, let's say someone's like an empath and they're sensitive to energy and they walk into a space where maybe there's been a lot of conflict, tension, contention, and they can feel that energy, like almost wanting to seep into themselves. And you can also set those boundaries like, no, I will not take on this energy. I will not take on these emotions. These are not mine. I block or I refuse. You kind of shield, like you can envision light surrounding you and blocking. Like, I refuse to take this on today. This is not mine.
yeah. And I think that that is something that even said out loud has a lot of power. Words carry intention. Words.
Intention. Hmm.
Yeah. And so saying something, just even if you have to do it quietly, no, like, no, you will not. Like, get out of here. Tell them. And you can tell that energy. You can tell it in your head. You can tell it in your heart. You can tell it out loud to that air around you. Don't be ashamed of that. And notice the difference. Notice the difference afterwards. I was going to also say sometimes if you feel like you might want something a little more solid to back up that intention beyond maybe prayer and blessings and things like that. If you feel like something needs that extra oomph, um, I have had some experience with using things like salt. You can line doorways, you can line windows. It's not something that I do a lot or that I would recommend, and if the other methodologies work, but it seems to create some kind of an interesting barrier. The metaphysics behind it is that salt is like a purified substance. It has a different kind of frequency or vibration, like crystals, because salt is a crystal, right?
Hmm.
Which is the next point we'll get to. But if you feel like you need a protection from something that keeps coming back, you can put that little barrier there and bless the space, and that will kind of like hold the positive in and push the negative out for a
Hmm.
period.
Yeah, another option too is Palo Santo spray. You can get it on Amazon. It has like that same property of protection and clearing like out energy that gets stuck.
Yeah. Palo Santo is a really good one. It's a sacred tree. It's a sacred bush, a shrub that grows in the southwestern region of the United States. And the native people in the US have been using that for
Yeah.
a
I
long time.
think it's really
Uh,
like I think there's a lot of it that grows in Peru too, like South
yeah,
America.
well, um, and it is particular. I mean, sage gets a lot of airtime.
Hmm.
Like, go smudge, go sage a space. Um, Both are good. If you want to, there's like a whole belief system behind why these things work as well. Um, Down to like spiritual properties. These things have been sacred to native peoples for a really long time because of these, whether it's because of that kind of like reverence people imbue them with, or because of intrinsic properties of the things themselves. They have like a different vibration. You can take it into herbology and like medicinal oils and things like that, where they have specific properties that are beneficial either to us or to the environment or to things, greater things at large, right? You can take that even further down into like the vibration of the matter of the plant itself, its structure of what it
Right.
does and the that it carries. Um, we live on a big macro scale of things, but the micro scale of things is really where that pours out. So, um, Palo Santo and sage both have that higher energy, that punch to it, where it tends to clear out other things. Sage in and of itself is just like a big eraser, and so if you want to sage a space, if you're into that, you would either use a spray if you're opposed to smoke. Some people have sensitivities. Um, you can get your hands on some sage spray, and that's usually the essential oil that is found within the plant of sage itself. And you can just go. I would spray all the corners, the doors, the windows, the entrance points to a room. Not that spirit needs to have a door when it can use a wall, but it is kind of one of those things that can be just kind of like a portal point, entry point into your space. And for you as well to recognize mentally and spiritually, you're blocking that off. You're cleansing
Mhm.
that out.
You're setting that intention.
You're setting that intention to keep that space clean. Um, And then I always pair it with prayer. I always would pair something like that with prayer. Sage is, like I said, an eraser. So if you're going to use sage, you need to, the slate is blank. So you need to set the space positive again. So prayer is a really great way to do that. You invite in the good and you leave out the bad. Palo Santo is more of a positive cleanse. So it is only taking out the bad when you would do something like smudging with Palo Santo. And you do it in the same way. Palo Santo comes in a form most of the time. And you
Yeah.
just like baby up. Um, Put it on fire. Like, wow,
Oh, I just smushed my chin.
you're cleansed.
Woo.
No more acne right there.
Yeah, right there.
um, in the same way. So I have seen Palo Santo sprays. I think sage is more common in spray form, but you would do the same thing if you're going to use it as kind of that smoke or incense. You would kind of like gently brush the smoke around the room and let that essence of it, that the essential oils of it, be released up into the air and do what it does in the corners and the windows,
Mm-hmm.
around those particular areas where you may feel like it's got more of a negative feeling to it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I again also still would pair that with prayer, but Palo Santo tends to leave things feeling a bit brighter and more light, not just like
Yes.
strictly clean. So,
Yes. Yes. It
uh,
helps, like, even with just energy, like, that gets trapped or like conflict, contention. It makes everything feel cleaner and just the air feels like not as heavy. Like you can glide. I don't know. And yeah, that's kind of what
and
I've noticed.
I mean, those are admittedly a little bit woo woo, like those
Oh,
things.
for
They're a
sure.
little spiritually, right? And if you're not comfortable with that, a lot of people are more comfortable maybe with like diffusing like citrus oils, particularly lemon or orange or something like that. That's very, very bright, very, very positive, that's uplifting. I mean, there's a reason they uplift our mood, right?
Hmm.
It's a reason it has this like what is the word I'm looking for? Connotation of happiness.
Hmm. Yeah.
Carries the shine with it or something, right? So I
Yeah.
would say steer away from things like the fake scented candles and stuff, but even something with real essential oil in it, something with a real essence of that can be extremely uplifting, and it can shift that energy towards the positive and still create that barrier. Anything to bring in more of that positivity and push out any of that more, the fear based, the discomfort, the negative, anything like that, the lower energy, the lower spiritual matter, is going to help your situation.
Absolutely. Another question I want us to address is people would ask, is learning more about these gifts, practicing these gifts, thinking about these gifts, listening to this podcast, is this going to invite the good and the bad? Like if I open up this gift, am I going to be opening up myself to more negative experiences? And if I were to answer that question, just because like I've really dived into this journey in the last couple of years, I would say that it has not. Um, I have not noticed more negative presences in my home since I began studying and practicing this gift. I would say for me, it has opened up more positive experiences where I've had experiences with grandparents that have passed through, um, aunts and uncles, great grandparents, even that I've never even met, where I'm like, hey, mom, I felt your grandpa and grandma visit me. Are their personalities like this? She's like, yep. And I'm like, cool. Because they had a message for me. And it was really great. Like, it was really pertinent and helpful. I feel like it's really opened up this world of me having all these friends and loved ones on the other side that are looking out for me. Do I still have to be on my guard? Sure, I do. But I actually have the tools now to know what to do with it. Whereas before, it was kind of more of a mystery. So that's my
Yeah,
experience.
more of the unknown of like, okay, what do I do with it now? Like it it without those tools, you're like, how do I handle this? What am I going to do when this happens? So you push it all away instead. And it's like the throwing out the baby with the bathwater kind of scenario that's happening and going on here. I will say that I think probably the most frequent occurrence is that when you really start becoming aware, you're becoming aware of all of the things, the whole spectrum. And so it opening that door? Yes, it's opening that door because you're becoming aware of everything around you that maybe you were not paying attention to, you were intentionally blocking off, you maybe were more skeptical about to kind of begin with. And so it's kind of one of those things like, if you have, I don't know, when you have something you're interested in, like, you learn a new skill or talent, like making a good cake or something like that. Then all of a sudden, anytime you taste cake, you're like, is this a good cake? Or is this like a crap
Mm.
Walmart cake? This cake come from a box? Or is this cake like really like well done and home mixed and stuff like that? You become more attuned to that thing and you have more of a proficiency in that thing. And then you see that thing everywhere, right? You see it everywhere. Everything is good or bad cake now. And so, um, yeah, I would say you get maybe more a whole of a gamut of things. You're going to have more interactions from spirits of all kinds because you're more aware of that now. Where is your attention placed? If your focus is on something of a higher elevation, if your focus is on lifting your spirit, your focus is on your own faith practices, your own religion things, your own prayer practice, meditation, like where is your attention placed? If it is on a higher sphere, you're going to have more higher sphere interactions. You just will,
Yeah.
because that is what you are attuned to.
Your
That is what
intent,
you
again, it's your intention.
right. It's your attention. It's one of those things where, you know, like tuning forks, when you have a tuning fork of a certain frequency and you hit it, it vibrates. And when you bring something of another frequency, the same frequency to it, it also vibrates, right? And so something of a lower frequency, that vibration isn't going to cause this one to vibrate. And so it's the same principle. It's just physics. So vibration, if your frequency, if your spiritual focus is high, you're going to have more of those positive things. Does that exclude you from having experiences with other stuff? It doesn't, but you could have those experiences with other stuff anyway. They could be around
That's what I'm
you.
saying. I was having them anyway.
Yeah, and or they may be around you and you're not even noticing. It doesn't keep them from influencing you, right?
Right.
I would rather be aware of it than not aware of it.
Same. I'd rather have skills than be ignorant.
Right, exactly. Um, yeah, and so I think having that kind of, I don't think you can not benefit because it puts it more within your control and not outside of your control, right?
Mhm.
And so if you are more attuned, you can be grateful for the good experiences and thankful for them, and you can be aware of anything unduly influencing you that is not good, and you can kick it to the curb a lot quicker than maybe you could if you weren't aware of that influence, right? That's
Mhm.
my
Absolutely.
there's opposition in all things. I mean, it is the a law of the universe that opposites attract, and that if something good, I mean, in our own faith Christian background, right, we believe in these good and evil forces that are at each other, and ultimately good will win. But it doesn't mean that the dark is going to try to stop it and try to influence you. And like we're saying, that their whole point and purpose is your destruction, and they're going to try, whether or not you're aware of them, they're going to try. And so if you're doing something that has a lot of good behind it, oftentimes you'll get pushback. So I think it's a smarter course to arm yourself with tools to be able to handle that and not be afraid of it.
Hmm. Here, here. And we're going to be doing our monthly meetup this month on this topic. So if you guys want to jump on and you have questions, Q&A, you want to share something, like what we're going to be discussing. It's the last Thursday we do our meetup, the last Thursday of every month. So you can join our Facebook group if you want to know more about, like, what's the Zoom link for that meetup. Our Facebook group can be found on our website, which is throughtheveilpodcast.com.
Exactly. And if you've had your own experiences that you'd like to share or particular questions about things, come to the meetup. Come to the meetup and ask us. This is the time. Like, we do these things, they're free. They're intentionally free so that we have the time to share, our experiences, our expertise with everybody on topics that hopefully you guys are interested in. And it's our time to give to you guys. So
Yeah,
utilize it.
it's community building and we love it.
Building. Come share your experiences. You're not alone. You'll be surprised. That's one of the things that I find the most encouraging when I teach classes or when we do these kinds of meetups and we meet and interact with people. They're like, "Oh, I'm so glad. I thought I was the only one." Weird.
Yes.
In closing, I kind of also want to talk about, um, you know, a little bit maybe how to talk about this with other people who may be afraid that because you have any, even just an interest in this, that you're going to attract something dark. Um, there is kind of a notion I think that a lot of people carry that the whole topic of it, if you're dabbling in any of this, that it's going to be bad, that all of it's going to be bad and it's going to corrupt you, and evil can only come from it. I will always tell people, are you edified? Do you leave with the Spirit? Do you feel like it pulls you closer to God? And if that is the case, then what negative is coming from this? By their fruits you shall know them. What are the fruits? And maybe that's a long-term game for you to study out for yourself and look at the cause and effect of learning about these gifts. But ultimately, is it bringing you closer to God? I have people in my classes who come in with hesitancy, or they have loved ones, spouses, parents who have that hesitancy about this. And by the end of it, they go, wow, I'm shocked about what this really is. It feels very much like getting an answer to prayer. It feels very much like having an experience with God. It feels very much revelation. And I'm like, it's exactly what it
Well,
is.
even my husband just took your class and he was hesitant. He went into it. I didn't push him. I didn't force him. He was just like, yeah, I'll do it. I'm interested enough. I'll do it. And he just had his last class yesterday. Yesterday. And
Yeah.
he was again pleasantly surprised that he can actually do this. He was like, yeah, it was weird. Like I knew stuff and I was sensing things. And I call this positive entitlement. Like we are entitled to connect with our loved ones through the veil if we so desire. We are entitled to connect to God, to our own divinity. We are entitled to have these relationships, and if we seek after them, yeah, we can get information and we can help other people strengthen their relationships with loved ones on the other side until they can access that themselves. And so it's really not rocket science. It's really just tapping into what, the Spirit brings, the information field we've talked about before. It's just learning how to tap into that and being receptive and being
Yeah.
open.
Yeah. And it is the same thing as feeling the Holy Spirit. It's language of the Spirit, right? It's just coming from somebody maybe, you know, who's not as high on the totem pole.
Uncle Bob.
Yeah. It's coming from a positive source who is also hopefully lifting you up and bringing you closer to God, who is witnessing of the connection of all of us, who's giving you love and encouragement and support, which they're doing anyway. But why would it not be so much better to know and to feel that, right?
Right. How can that help you in your life if you know that you have loved ones on the other side rooting for you and they are aware of what's going on right now in your life, the nitty gritty, and they're supporting you. And I do want to say something about fear. We have to be careful with fear because where does fear ultimately come from?
Right. Um, it's something you have to look at it in the long-term game. Is it building towards your edification and your growth or your destruction? Right. And fear is something that's protective, but it's also something that can be destructive. I think caution and fear are two different things. And if you are, I mean, even from a dark stuff today, like I'm not afraid of it because I know what it is. I can state what it is. I can name it and I can move past it. Um, it's there. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like these things are out there, but we know what they are and we know how to fight them. And we know where their control is, like it ends. And it ends with our choice and it ends with God. And so embracing the light instead of the darkness. And as long as your face is turned towards that light and the outcome is light, when you are sharing love, when you are sharing uplift, when you are sharing testimony and you're bettering someone's life, it's not coming from a dark place.
Again, by their fruits you shall know them. By the fruit
Right.
of this work you shall know it. Yeah.
If it's connecting you, if it's making you feel the love of God, it's not coming from a dark place. It's counterproductive to the destructive plan of the dark side, right?
Right. That's what I tell people. I don't think the dark side is interested or invested in you having a healing experience with your loved one on
Yeah,
the other side that you have been waiting and hoping for a very long time. They're not interested in your heart healing. They want to keep you stuck in this dark, depressed place. They're not interested in you feeling uplifted and supported.
They would rather you be bitter or angry or afraid or hopeless or lost, right? They would rather pull you down. It doesn't really benefit them by pushing you up. And even counterfeit, there's an argument to be made for that too. Like things can be deceptive, but they can only be deceptive so far. When you feel pride, step in. When you feel greed, step in. When you feel anger, step in. You know you've hit the limit. Like that, they can only be deceptive so far. And when things are truly good, you will not find that same. You'll find pureness, you'll find love, you'll find joy, you'll find actual happiness. Um, it can only be deceptive to a point.
Yeah. Yeah. When it's uplifting and wholesome, it has a very different feel to it.
Exactly. So know yourself, guys. Share that love with other people. I would say my whole kind of thought process on it is that if we're truly bringing light, other people are going to see it, even if it takes them a while because they're afraid at first. Other people will see it. You can't hide light. Darkness can't escape light. It overcomes. It's not the other way around.
Right. Well, thanks so much for joining us today. I'm excited for our meetup where we're going to dive into this a little bit more. Again, if you want to stay in touch with us, you can find us on our website through theveiledpodcast.com.
If you haven't joined our Facebook community yet, it's a great place. Please comment, introduce yourself, come in with your questions, come in with your experiences and your thoughts. Everybody loves those. Everybody loves to share those. It's a really great place of supportive people. Also, it's where we do a lot of announcements. So if you are looking for classes, if you're looking for opportunities, like-minded people, or meetups, join us there. You can find that link on our website through theveiledpodcast.com. And look for the link for our meetup there for next Thursday.
Yes. Bye, guys. See you later.
See you later.